My first Kotlin tutorial. Wish me luck. Welcome to Mobile Application Tutorials. My name's Nigel. Okay, I'm going to jump back in time to the first ever Android video tutorial I ever did on the camera intent. But this time I'm going to be doing it using the Kotlin programming language, which is now fully supported in Android Studio. And then at the very end of this tutorial, we'll just go over sort of some observations that we found out by developing an application using the Kotlin programming language. Okay, so we'll make a start. So the first thing you're going to need to do is to use a version of Android Studio 3.0. You can't use at this moment in time, which is June 2017, I can't use the standard release of Android Studio. So you'll have to jump across and download Android Studio 3.0. The current version is Canary 3, and that's what I've upgraded to, so I'm using Canary 3, but anything at least this version or later should be fine. So you need to download that. Then once you've downloaded that, start the Canary. I'll start Android Studio. You don't need to start a Canary. Okay, so we'll start it up, and I'm going to start a new Android Studio project. And I'm going to call this KT for Kotlin, Cam, short for camera, intent. Okay, I'm just going to unclip this. So basically when you start up the Android Studio, create new project, you're going to see this window here. It's important that you select this part here, include Kotlin support. So that's going to support the Kotlin language. And that's the only change here, just include Kotlin support, and select next. And I'm going to do it for a phone and tablets, minimum SDK, probably Lollipop, should be okay. Select next. And as you know by now, I like a completely empty activity for my tutorials. In other words, I don't like any other code out there that shouldn't be there related to the tutorial. So I will select an empty activity, select next. And I'll just call this, just for simplicity, I'm just going to keep the name as it is, the main activity. It's a simple application. It's only going to have one activity. We can keep it as main. And one thing here, you'll notice I'm using backwards compatibility, so we can support older versions of Android. That's fine. I normally keep that selected as well, so that's fine to use that. Now I can select finish. And wait for the Gradle build to complete. And so straight away it's telling me to do a sync. If it's telling you to do a sync, do a sync. I recommend you do a sync. Okay, so that's now completed. Okay, one of the first things I want to do here is if I select the module app. Okay, here you'll notice that we've got a plugin for Kotlin Android to support the Kotlin language. I'm going to add another plugin here, which is just going to make it easier for us to access our layout views inside the source code. And so I just copied the above line and just add the name extensions as I've done here. And we have to do another sync. And wait for that to complete. Once that's completed, we're going to go into our layout file and work on our layout. So go into the resource folder here, select layout. We've only got one layout which was created for us during the creation of the project. Okay, there it is there. I'm going to jump across to the tab down below here called Design. Let me enlarge that. Okay. Hello world's the very first thing when you start an application. There's probably plenty of Kotlin tutorials about that right now. This tutorial is actually going to be an application, a bit of an easy one. So we can delete this text view, and we're going to add a couple of views here. Go to images first here, select the image view, and just drag it across into the window here. Now we will be asked for a drawable color. I'm just going to select the so much choice here. I'm just going to select the darker grey, select OK. And I'm just going to double check that I've selected my image view. This can be a bit flaky at the moment. And now I'm just going to enlarge the size of this image view. It's a bit like an image editor, this. I just want to get it centered. We'll just do a little bit more. Bear with me. Okay, already I can see the horizontal constraints there. I'll add the vertical ones a little bit later. And now we'll give that an ID. That seemed to disappear. And I'm just going to call this ID photo image view. And I'll just put a content description view for displaying image. That's it. Now I want to add a button. When you press the button, we'll start a camera application which will capture the image for us basically. So go to widgets, we've got the button there, just drag that below the image view like this. And let me just add some vertical constraints there. We will need them. You'll get an error in your layout file if you don't have that. And just add it down below like that. And check my image view as well. I'm going to add some constraints there. And just to center it, I'll connect a constraint to the button view there as well. It actually is there. Drag that down there. This is a little bit fiddly. Okay, I'm having problems. I don't really need the vertical. That will do. That will do. Okay, so we've got the photo image view. Let's go back to button, check the naming of the button. I'm going to call this, change the name slightly to, let's call this camera button. Camera app button. Camera button. And I'm going to modify the text view down here, the text as well. And we'll just call start camera app. Start camera app. Something descriptive like that. Normally you would set this up in your strings.xml file. Just for the speed of this tutorial, I'm going to leave it as it is. It'll give a warning and not an error. Okay, let's go back down into our text tab and just check for any red horizontal lines. It looks okay. So we have an image view and a button. You'll get an error if your constraints, your vertical and horizontal constraints, are missing for one of your views. A view does need at least one vertical and one horizontal constraint. Okay, so that's good. That's our layout done. So now we're going to go into the source code and actually do some coding, which is what everyone's been waiting for. So let's select our main activity. There it is there. Okay, the first thing we want to do, because we've added, if we go back to here, we've added the Kotlin Android extension so we can, it gives us easy access to the layout views. So we need to basically import a library that represents this activity underscore main XML file. So let's go back into the main there and add another import. The name of this import is going to be Kotlin, and you append an X there. Then you can select Android synthetic. Now we want main activity main. Notice how we select activity main. which matches the layout file name, activity_main. So select that. And now this gives us access to a bunch of views. I'm just going to put the star so we can have access to them all. It just makes things a little bit easier, saves a few lines of code, which is good, and which is why Kotlin's going to be attractive for a number of people. Okay, now we have that there, we can actually call our button on-click listener. So if we go back here, we've got the button here. I want to add an on-click listener for that button. And while I'm here, the ID for that button is camera button. So I can call camera button. There we go. Now I want to set an on-click listener. At the very top, it's offering me the Kotlin method of implementation of setting an on-click listener. So we want that. And everything's done here. It's a bunch of unnecessary code has been removed here. So basically we can just now, inside our brackets here, just put in our code for our on-click listener for that camera button. So first thing I want to do is create an intent. So it's going to be a value, and I'll just call camera intent, try to be descriptive. And it's going to be an intent object, and inside here we want the media store and provide an action image capture there. Okay, so now we've got an intent. I'm just going to put some code in here that just ensures that there is an application that does support the action image capture action, and applications such as these will be camera applications. Okay, so we need to put an if, and I need to call the intent again, and we're going to basically call resolve activity. So we want to check to see if there is a activity to capture that, and I do need to pass in the package manager, and we're just basically checking that this is not equal to null. So we're ensuring that there is an application that will support our action capture image request. So what if there is, we can call start activity for result. We're going to pass in our intent. And we also need to add a request code, so we'll do that now. So again, it's going to be a value, which is a read-only member. And this is going to be a start. I'm just going to call this camera request code. And give that a value of 0. And I've already got used to leaving out the semicolons, so going back to Java, okay, and now we can just put that request code into our start activity for result. And that's it for this part. Okay, so we're making a request to an application. We need to set up some code that will capture that request once it's been sent back from the camera. So the camera takes a photo, but it's going to return back to our application, so we want to capture that and then hopefully display the thumbnail in the image view. Okay, so first of all, to capture any returns from any activities we call, we can call on activity result. And we'll do a check here. I don't want to use a switch loop. I'm going to use a when, which is what you use in Kotlin. And we put the request code there. So we check for matching request codes. And we'll just do a little bit of tidying upness in case we don't recognize the request code. Now I will call a toast here. There is another sort of library that makes the toast much easier. That's probably going to be for another tutorial. So I'm just going to, for the simplicity of this tutorial, I'm just going to use the current toast we've got here. If this gets cold, it's going to be unrecognized. And if I don't know how to spell, you won't understand what I'm saying here. Unrecognized request code, basically. And it requires one more argument, which is length short. And we need to call show to actually display that toast. Okay, now let's go back. We want to actually load a thumbnail into our image view. So we do a check here for the camera request code. And first thing we want to do here is just to check that the result was successful, and we want to see that the data argument does have data. So we'll check for that in a statement here. So we'll check the result code first. Code. So the check here is if the result's okay. And we're also going to check to see if we've got data as well. So we need to check those two conditions. Data is not equal to null. Okay, so if those conditions are satisfied, we can now load the data the thumbnail bitmap from our data argument into our image view. And I need to go back just to check the ID for the image view. And the image view is photo image view. So we can call photo image view set image bitmap and get the bitmap for the, if we only send a action image capture action, we'll be calling the data, and it's extras, and get field here passing in data. Okay, it's still not happy here because we're going to have to cast this value that's returned to us as a bitmap. To do that in Kotlin, it's just as bitmap. And that is it. I don't see any errors in the code, so we can run this and see if it works. Click on the run button. Okay, so the application's now started. Let me record that so you can see what's happening. So basically select Start Camera App. And I've only got one camera application on the Nexus, which is the default Google one. So take a photo, select that. And as you can see, we've now returned back to our application here, and we've got the captured image in the thumbnail here. So that concludes this tutorial of how we use the Kotlin programming language to capture an image using an intent. As you can see here, there wasn't a huge amount of code here to implement this. So Kotlin is a good programming language for people new to computer programming to start off with. So I can see Kotlin being embraced by more and more people who want to start out learning Android programming. And it's been a good experience for me and refreshing for myself to work on a different programming language. And I think going forward, I'm going to start using Kotlin more and more for most of my tutorials. Anyway, that concludes this tutorial. If you want to get notified of any of the other tutorials that I'm working on, don't forget to click on the subscribe button. And I'm extremely busy at the moment. I don't actually have time to read questions besides answer questions on YouTube comments. So please don't waste your time posting questions in the YouTube itself. They won't get responded to. If you do really need to get hold of me, I can make time available through Code Mentor, where I provide paid consultancy. Anyway, thank you for taking the time for watching this. Bye for now.